I saw a familiar face walking on the avenue, both surprised by the way we looked. The years had changed us too. We smiled and both embraced like old friends often do, as childhood memories came in view.
Welcome to another meeting of the East End Veterans. My name is Joseph Giannini. I'm a Marine captain at Fort Nam in 67 and 68. Today we have a special guest, Ryan Kennedy. He's responsible for this piece behind us, and we'll talk about that in a little while.
I'm Lenny Green. I was just thinking that it was 7 years ago, Joe asked me to help to volunteer to support this group. And I said I wasn't a veteran. He said it didn't matter. He just needed our support. So I've been helping out ever since. But I've been a lifelong civilian.
Larry Darcy. I did 2 years in the Korean War. I saw no combat. But no one could be more anti-war than I am, so I fit in here pretty well.
Ryan Kennedy, local artist out here in the Hamptons, and politically charged younger generation. So I decided to work for a piece here for this group, the one behind us, which is called "Divided We Sit," and it talks about the political complacency of current generations, and also speaks to a bipartisan system that we seem to be rocking back and forth on. So the work itself is the American flag, and working with it, I chose to divide up some of the elements between the white and the red lines, as well as the blue square, which is placed in front of these two empty rocking chairs on both the left and then on the right. And those are sort of representing these absent individuals from their government that have taken these seated positions in which we allow other factors to take hold, whereas our activism is not as active as it used to be.
You know something, we talk about this quite often, how Americans are disconnected from their government and from the wars that are ongoing. And in my opinion, many of our youth are disconnected, they're not involved. Do you know why our youth are so disconnected from, Well,
I think there's a couple, multiple factors. That's a complicated one to go into, but, primarily I would see, for me personally, it's this bi-party system. I have to choose between one or the other in order to move forward, where it seems like I'm constantly being put, I guess, almost at war with my opponent, with my Republican friend, who is a fellow citizen as well. And I think it sort of pits a nation against each other, and therefore we can't progress forward. And as a youth, when you get a culture that's very immediate-based, internet-based, Facebook, where you want to see immediate results, and you look at government and you see it as a slow-functioning tool that sort of works forward but then works backward at the same time, you almost don't want to put the effort in because it's such a slow grind. Whereas, the immediacy of internet and networking and things is more satisfying on that level. So I think that's definitely a factor into people sitting back in my generation and being a bit more complacent towards politics. And it feels very out of your hands when big business and politics and these parties get involved, that, that voice that we, the people that created that government, seems to be lost.
That's basically the way I feel.
Yeah, very perceptive. I think what's interesting, though, that, one way to ensure that big business will keep running things is not to get involved. And that's one of the, I guess that's part of the paradox, because I work with young people all the time. I'm a college professor, and I find that, yes, they're very much interested in the immediate and really don't have the patience to work for long-term goals. And that seems probably in part the problem we're in this election cycle. Joe and I just went to a Meet the Candidates meeting out in Montauk last week, and we got to meet the candidates running for for Congress and other local positions. And boy, seems people are very impatient. It's as if someone set the house on fire about 8 years ago, started setting the house on fire, and then we finally get the firemen to come in, and we say, "Oh, you haven't put out the fire yet?" Well,
Well, you haven't rebuilt it yet.
yeah, you haven't rebuilt the house yet.
house.
Let's bring in the arsonist to bring back the arsonist to set things right. This lack of patience is, I think, not just something something that the youth or the young people our country suffers from, but I think as a country we've lost our sense of discipline and patience in some way.
You can.
And I see this as what you were saying, Ryan, about how divided we are and fighting among one another. As long as we fight among ourselves, divided we fail, similar to what you're indicating here. And just one quick example of
Whose
that.
column is that? Who's that?
This is Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize winner for economics. And he gives an example of this here. The Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, he gets a lot of attention here recently for a single quote that he made a while back, and I think we all remember it. When you say something outstanding or ridiculous or bizarre, someone's going to quote it in the media. And he said, the single most important thing we want to achieve is for President Obama to be a one-term president. If you read the full interview of this comment with McConnell, he was saying that in 1965, Republicans erred by focusing too much on their policy agenda and not enough on destroying the president. I mean, what do you call it?
Well, that's ridiculous.
That's what you call it.
That's not politics.
Yeah.
That's hatred, that's prejudice, that's racism, I think. That's what I think it is.
Well, maybe, I don't know. It seems to me it's politics in one sense, that it's politics of the worst kind, where you put your party above the welfare of the country.
Well, it becomes almost, it's like climbing a social ladder and tearing off those in front of you, where your only goal is your party or your position, and not necessarily, like you say, the betterment of the nation. And
he goes further on in his comment, so I don't want to make this just a Republican thing. True, McConnell did say that he might be willing to work with Obama in certain circumstances, namely, if he's willing to do a Clintonian black flip, taking a position that would find more support among Republicans than in his own party. And that relates to, if you remember Newt Gingrich, anytime he got a popular issue, Clinton took it from him. Remember those days? The Contract for America. Everything that was on the poll side, Clinton grabbed. He was a poll-driven president without any kind of leadership.